Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Wilder and welcome to my home. I am the author of the Gothic Urban Fantasy Lullaby of the Lilitu, and this just came out in May, and I am also the author of this poetry book which came out last year in 2018 in April that I just remembered to start talking about. So today, because tomorrow, October 17th, is Black Poetry Day, yes, look it up, it's Black Poetry Day tomorrow, and because I am Black and I love poetry, I just wanted to talk to you guys about those two things. Growing up, I was blessed enough to read the works of brilliant authors like Toni Morrison, the very illustrious Maya Angelou, and Langston Hughes. I've been reading Black authors since I was very, very young, thanks to my grandmother who would send me books. Especially the first I remember her giving me was Beloved by Toni Morrison, which I think I've mentioned before. She also gave me some Alice Walker works. She also gave me collections and things like that. She would give me any book that was written by a Black author, even if it wasn't someone who we know now as classic. Anyone that she knew was a Black author, she made sure I was reading authors of color my whole life. And even though it wasn't something that I started doing actively on my own until I was an adult, it was something that I feel that I was blessed enough to be exposed to just on an ongoing basis. One of the authors that I was exposed to was Langston Hughes, as I mentioned, and his poem Harlem inspired the play A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry. A Raisin in the Sun it's a poem that's been inspirational for me pretty much since I first ever heard it. I think I saw a version of it starring Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee, who, if you have not seen that version, it's the 1961 version of A Raisin in the Sun. It is amazingly beautiful. It is one of my favorite versions of that play, that script, and I have read the script numerous times. I studied it in acting school. I played a small part from that script in one scene in an acting class in college. And so I've read the script a bunch. I've watched multiple film versions, multiple stage versions of A Raisin in the Sun. So that play has meant so much to me throughout my life. One of the main characters, Beneatha Younger, she's the younger sister of the actual main character, whose name I can't remember at this moment. But she's a character I did, and she's also a character I really, really relate to. I've always related to her. Her dreams of being more than what people tell her she can be, being more than what society tells her she can be. She wants to be a doctor. She's an intellectual. She wants to go to college and live this life of intellectualism, and maybe she's a little bit of an elitist in her own way, but she loves her family and she loves her home and she wants the best for them as well. But her dreams, her wanting to be a doctor, her wanting to be bigger than what society tells her she can be, that's something that they're kind of resistant to because they've accepted the stories that society has told them. And I've always just related to that because that really reflects my own life in a lot of ways. There are a lot of, and not my whole family, but there are a lot of people in my family who think that life has to be a certain way and that having certain dreams or wanting to live a certain kind of life means that you no longer identify as a Black person, or you no longer identify as a Black American, or you no longer feel like you are, or that the family you're in is good enough for you because you want these other things. And that I've always felt was kind of ridiculous because I love my family, and regardless of whether or not I want to live the same lifestyle as certain people in my family, that doesn't mean I think I'm better. That just means I personally, on my own, want to live a certain way. It has nothing to do with my opinions about other people's lives. It has nothing to do with my opinions or my feelings towards other people, especially towards my family. And I feel like Beneatha in A Raisin in the Sun had that same kind of struggle. And so I've always really resonated with her. I've always really resonated with that play. Because tomorrow is Black Poetry Day, because of that, I did want to do a little bit of honor to Langston Hughes, to the person who inspired that play that inspired a large chunk of my life. And so I was going to read his poem Harlem, that very poem, which I have, for most of my life have called the wrong name. I've either called it a raisin in the sun because of that line, or I've called it a dream deferred because of the first line, but neither of those is the name. It's called Harlem for anyone who's looking for it. It's a very, very, very short poem, so I'm going to read it and then I'm going to talk just a little bit about what it kind of means to me. So this is Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? Okay, so that is the poem. It's very short, like I said, and I did want to talk just a little bit about what I think it means. And I think it's pretty clear, it's not vague, it's not cryptic at all. It's asking what happens to a dream when it's been put off. And I think especially in the time that Langston Hughes was around, but also now, people have been very, very focused on survival and on, especially Black people. We have to focus on survival because of what we're faced with in society. And we have to focus with being told that, you can't have dreams because you have to do this and this and this. You have to have a family, you have to get a job, you have to, or a regular day job, a factory, whatever was available at that time when Langston Hughes was around, and the kind of menial jobs that we have now, which are necessary, of course, for our society to run, but the idea that you have to have one of those jobs and that you have to have a family and that you have to be on this specific path towards success to be seen as valuable in society meant that many people then and now still put away their dreams of doing something that may not necessarily fit those parameters, right? And so when we put our dreams away, he's asking, what happens to that dream? Does it die? Does it fade? Does it get soggy? Does it get gross? Does it fester inside of us? And that, does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it die? Does it fade away? Does it become ash? Does it become nothing? But does it fester like a sore? I feel like that's internal. I feel like that's when we feel resentments towards our lives, towards our partners that we choose because for some reason, or towards our children because we think, they kept us from pursuing our dreams. They made it so that our dreams were deferred indefinitely. And so we resent them. We resent the things around us that have given us pretty good lives on paper, that have made us stable, but have meant that we've had to let go of a very important part of us. And it's almost as if that part of us stays inside, but it dies, it festers, it turns into oozing wounds, oozing spiritual and emotional wounds. Does it stink like rotten meat? Does it cause us to feel discomfort? Does it cause us to feel like our surroundings are gross, like everything around us is unsatisfactory because of that dream that's inside of us, that's dying, that's rotting inside of us, that's creating this sort of scar tissue place of pain in our spirits? But then it says, or does it crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? And that, I feel, is more about, I guess, do we just let it go? And are we okay? Is it like a bittersweet memory? It's like, you're in your 50s and you have a happy life. You have a family. You have a home. You have the career that's been very satisfying, even if it's not the thing you dreamt of. And so you can go back and say, I had that dream and I was very happy to have that dream. I had so much passion for it. But I'm also very happy with what I have now. And so it's okay. That was nostalgia, and it was a positive phase or time in my life that I had that dream, but I let it go. So maybe that's what he means by syrupy sweet. And then maybe it just sags like a heavy load. So does it weigh you down? If this dream, if your life hasn't turned out the way you want it and everything's hard already and you're just afraid or you're just struggling to follow this dream, is it like a weight in your soul? Is it like holding you down? Is it making you depressed, making you tired, making you feel weak? What happens when we push our dreams away? Or does it explode? Does it get to a point where you can no longer hold it in, and then you have to let it out? Then you have to do something. Then you have to speak. You have to scream. You have to stand up. You have to write. You have to create. You have to do something that you can no longer defer it. You can no longer hold on to it because it's going to explode and it's going to affect everything around you. What happens when we push our dreams away? What happens when we tell ourselves we can't pursue something that we love? Personally, for me, it does become like a festering wound. It becomes painful, it becomes sad, it becomes heavy. I get depressed, I lose my way, I don't understand what my life is, and I just when I was putting off the things that I believed that I felt good doing to do things that I thought I should do, I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy in my life. I was trigger warning, I was self-harming, I was suicidal, I was in and out of psychiatric hospital and therapy, and like going through I was just unaligned. I was just entirely unaligned because I didn't do what I knew from childhood was something I was supposed to do, which was writing, which was healing, which was branching out and trying to help people in a spiritual way and not in a controlling way, which is what I had known about spirituality for many years of my life. And I had known that life was like this path, which was you become a doctor so that your family can be proud of you, and so that you can make doctor money, and so that you can have this very successful life and be the first one in your family to be a doctor, and like go to college and pursue that path, and marry a guy and have kids and, have this life by the time you're 25. And I know a lot of people who did pursue that life. Maybe not the doctor thing, but the marriage, kids, steady date, like steady, acceptable society's preferred types of jobs. I know a lot of people who had big dreams as a kid, just like I did, and stuck to that path. And I don't know if they're happy now. I'm not going to speak on their life, but I know, knowing who I am today, I would not at all have been happy on that path. I would have been so miserable and so unhappy, and I don't know if I would have survived it. But I do know that where I am now, pursuing my dreams, trying to help people, believing the things that I believe in, has brought me a beautiful, amazing, wonderful life, and it's only getting better. It's always getting better. And even when there are moments where it feels like I'm having a setback of some sort, like within days, I'm reminded that no, that's just a moment, and the overall picture, the big story of my life is beautiful, and I'm so grateful and so I'm blessed. I'm so charmed and blessed. And a lot of that, I think I can look back on my life and see was influenced by the things that I read, by the things that were read to me, were given to me, by these stories, by these poets, by these people who knew what it was like to be Black in America, and knew what it was like to struggle, and knew what it was like to have a word, have a story, have a poem, a song in their spirits, and need to let it out regardless of what anyone thinks. And I think that is beautiful. So happy Black Poetry Day to everyone out there. Happy writing and happy October. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Remember to check out all my links in the description. I got Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. Check that out. And anything else, I got a website. You can buy all my books on the interwebs, and I will see you next time. Bye. You a chipmunk. Chipmunks don't